Hello everyone, it's Caroline or Miss B Overseas. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so appreciative of every single one of you. I want to talk to you about the books that I plan to read this month, the month of May. If you're new here, or even if you're not new here, you may not know that I don't do anything like super fancy or cool to pick out my monthly TBRs, but I do try to prioritize and start with picking at least one middle grade, one young adult, and one adult. That way I just make sure that I am reading a variety of age ranges, and then theoretically by the end of the year, it should math out to me having read at least 12 of every single age range. I don't know why that's important to me. Maybe it's because I'm a teacher and I want to make sure that I'm reading equal amounts like for my students. I don't know, I'm not quite sure. But starting out with my middle grade pick for the month of May, I chose to read Everything Sad is Untrue, a true story by Nayeri. This follows a middle grade age boy who I believe is an Iranian refugee who is going to school in the US, and I think that the story kind of just recounts his experience going to school and the obvious difficulties that someone in his position would go through. And what makes me really excited about this one is that it obviously, kind of like I already said, focuses on him trying to make friends at his new school, and he does this by telling his classmates and his peers his perspective and what he had to go through and what him and his family had to go through to get to the US, but he also kind of also tells his classmates these kind of like, almost like folkloric tales from his heritage, and I'm really stoked to read this. I've heard nothing but incredible things, and I believe that it's somehow I think it's semi-autobiographical. The main character's name is Daniel and the author's name is Daniel as well. Next up for my young adult pick, we have Game Changer by Neal Shusterman. This is a fairly new release, and it follows a young boy who plays high school football, and during a game, I think he ends up getting a concussion, and while in this concussion, I don't know if he's in like a coma or something like that, or the concussion basically causes him to slip into this other world that is supposedly much like his own, but he learns more about himself and like his fellow classmates from this other world, I think. I really don't want to go in knowing any more than that. I've been mostly really impressed with everything that I've read from Neal Shusterman so far. Everything that I've read from him has been kind of in the dystopian sci-fi genre, so this seems more contemporary speculative, so I'm interested to see if I enjoy his writing, even though it's a different style of book. Okay, and then I'm not gonna lie, my adult pick I'm a little bit nervous for. It's The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I'm reading this kind of for a video, but I'm also just, I mean, I wouldn't read something only for a video. I'm also actually interested in this as well. For too long, I promise I'll tell you what it's about if you don't already know, but for too long, I have conflated the thriller and the horror genres together, which doesn't make any sense because they're not the same thing at all. But I've read enough domestic thrillers to know that they're just not for me. But like I said, horror is not the same thing as a domestic thriller, and this is an adult horror novel, and I'm excited to pick it up and see if this might be a new genre that I can get into. So the storyline of The Only Good Indians, from what I can tell, follows a group of 4 Blackfeet Indian men who are being haunted by this, in their present timeline, they're being haunted by this otherworldly creature. This haunting is happening because of something this group of men did when they were younger. And I think it has something to do with they were either hunting something that they weren't supposed to be hunting, or they were hunting somewhere they weren't supposed to be hunting. And I'm a little nervous, I'm a little scared, but say it with me, everyone, I'm also very excited. So moving on from my intentional middle grade and young adult and adult picks, I also have kind of a secret TBR going on this month. I'm hoping that it will result in a vlog that you might see at the end of this month. Fingers crossed that that actually happens. So I'm not going to tell you every single book, obviously, that's in that TBR, because then it wouldn't be a secret, but I will tell you one, which is We Hunt the Flame by Hafsah Faizal. This is an ancient Arabia young adult fantasy, and if you don't know this about me, I am constantly trying to figure out my tastes and preferences when it comes to young adult fantasy, because usually with that genre, I end up either loving it or hating it, but there are enough kind of buzzwords for me in We Hunt the Flame that have me thinking, just based off of books I've read in the genre previously that I've loved, that are going to make me love this one. I don't even know, I said a lot of things in that sentence and I don't know if that made any sense. But like I said, ancient Arabia inspired, and what I do know about the plot of this is that it focuses on two primary characters. One of them is this kind of dark prince assassin, and the other one is this girl who is trying to save her people. And both of them are seeking this kind of ancient, mysterious artifact. And I believe it's going to be one of those things where it's like they're hunting this artifact separately, but they're also kind of hunting each other. And that's something that I really love in my YA fantasy. The next book is one that I cannot believe that I've lived my whole life without having read it, and it's Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I have never read anything from Riordan, but if I do not read or at least start this series soon, my students are going to cause an uprising. There's like Riordan fans, and then there's my students. They're like on another level. They are constantly bullying me because I have not read this series, and so my time with them, the school year is winding down, so I'm running out of time to actually read it. And I also thought, because I do know that this is going to be adapted into a TV series, so I'd like to be able to kind of know the context of what's going on before the TV series comes out. I don't know that I need to tell you anything about this. If you don't know what it is by now, I'm assuming you don't want to know. I actually don't really know what this is about. I know the big things. It's about a boy named Percy who is a demigod. I think that's the language that they use. He's the son of Poseidon, and I think there's a camp involved, and I'm just realizing now, if you don't know this about me, a camp setting, like a summer camp kind of setting, is one of my favorite settings in books. So I didn't even put two and two together until now, but that's like motivating me to read it even more. So I'm going to be reading that one as well this month. And there's one more book that I wanted to make sure that I read this month, but I'm just making sure, I'm checking Goodreads and making sure that I'm getting the author name correct. Yes. So it's a nonfiction book, and I feel like I'm constantly slacking on my nonfiction reads. I feel like I'm always saying that I want to prioritize and read more nonfiction, but then it never actually happens. So I'm committing to it this month with a book called The Impossible First by Colin. I just checked it and I already forgot it. Colin O'Brady. So this is a memoir, and in this he recounts his experience of being the first person to cross Antarctica, like traverse Antarctica by himself without any assistance, which seems impossible, which is, I understand the title now. And I really think that this is going to work, and I'm going to enjoy this as a nonfiction read, because I do enjoy memoirs, but I also enjoy survival fiction. So this is like the pinnacle of survivalist. And so I'd imagine that if I enjoy survival stuff in my fiction, I'd obviously enjoy it in my nonfiction as well. I did find the audiobook for this, and Colin O'Brady narrates it himself, so I think that's the form that I'm going to read that in this month. So there you have everything that I plan to read in the month of May. Well, not everything. Again, stay tuned for a possible secret TBR reading vlog, but that's almost everything that I want to read this month. Thank you so much for joining me as I told you about my reading plans for this month. I hope that you have some solid reading plans lined up for yourself. And I also hope that, as always, you are having a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again very, very soon. Goodbye.